Brethren, let's open our mouth and give thanks to God. Let's honor him in the beauty of his holiness. It pleases God, he has brought us here again. Let's give thanks to God. This is the 3rd month in the new year. The Lord has been faithful unto us. Let us thank God for life. Let us thank God for protection in the midst of all these challenges. Let us thank God who has been taking us out and bringing us in. Let's thank God on behalf of our family members. Let's thank God for his daily provision. Let us also thank God on behalf of this great nation, Nigeria, in spite and despite of news we are hearing. God is still God, because he has not allowed the country to be run down by evil men. Let us give thanks to God. In the same way, let's commit this program into God's hands, that as we gather before him this evening, that the purpose for which he has brought us be made manifest in the life of each and every one of us. Let us ask for impartation from the Holy Spirit. Let's ask for the help of the Holy Spirit, the greatest teacher. Let us ask that he might give wisdom unto the teacher to impart into us that which is needful in the now. Let us pray that no life will remain the same at the end of the program of tonight. Let's also pray for those who are on their way coming, that the Lord will bring them here safely to be a part of what the Lord will be doing in our midst. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen. Father, we are grateful unto you for yet another opportunity you've granted unto us to gather before you, to hear from you. We ask that tonight, O God of heaven, you will minister to us in a more unique way, such that, Lord God of heaven, each and every one of us, O God of heaven, will receive afresh from you that which, O God of heaven, will continue to be a way of our lives, to living according to your injunctions, to living according to how you have made home to be, and to further communicate this unto those who are outside there. Help us, O God of heaven, that at the end, your name and your name alone will be glorified. Thank you, Father, for answering our prayers. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed.
Amen. Amen. Formally welcome us again on behalf of Beth-Zatha Ministry. Actually, some of you, I had you to remind me today, just to press my phone and say, how are you doing? Having not seen you for quite some time, but I know it's fun. You're welcome. And well, all our old faces I have known, except for one person that has been quite away for quite some time. But we're glad to have all of you today and to enjoy fellowship together. We wouldn't want to waste more time because we're already familiar with what we do. But for those of us who are new, I don't want to begin to do the introduction now, maybe later. We'll be introduced to that. Is that we've been running series of teachings and discussions on marriage and how to make the best of it. And this we have opened up to couples and will-be couples. The reason is simple. The Lord has laid it upon our hearts to share some of the things that we need to know so that we can make our marriages better. It's not as if we're saying that those who come for these meetings are here because their marriages have failed, or that those who come, coming just because they want to hear maybe another new thing about marriage. But I want to say that we're here to open up and to share from the Word those principles that will help us to truly maximize the grace of God in this deep relationship. We've been on for some time, and last time we went on to a new session. That session is on good sex. What I intend to do is not to talk, but to allow the clips to speak to us for a while, and then we will pause from time to time and let everyone share as the Spirit leads you. So I wouldn't be just me saying what should be. And then from all the other people who will share through the clips, you'll be able to have more information. And this information are biblically rooted on what we need to know and what we need to do in order to make our relationship sweeter and stronger. So don't mind this technology. I forgot some things, I ran back home. I came now, they've taken lights, so to us to start all over again to give us, the pictures. But the last time we met, we discussed the fact that sex is one of the topics that people really want to open up and talk about. Yet, it's so important, and the Bible did not in any way make it less important or play down on it. And that's why a lot of people, as it were, keep living in ignorance and hurt themselves in this issue. So we want to start it all over again for the benefit of those of us who were not there before, so that we can pick up more issues, either for clarifications or for discussions to get us more knowledgeable on the whole issue.
Hello, it's great to see you again. We hope you're enjoying the course. The subject of this session is good sex. There's a lot to be said on this very important subject, and our aim is to open up communication between you as a couple in an area that is difficult for people to talk about.
First, a story. In Jenny and Ralph's home, as well as a full-time job, Jenny did most of the housework. But one evening, Jenny arrived home from the office to find the children had had their bath, there was a load in the washing machine and another in the dryer. Dinner was cooking and the table set. Jenny was astonished. Well, it turned out that Ralph had read an article that said wives who work full-time and had to do their own housework were usually too tired to have sex. The night went well, and the next day she told her friends at the office all about it. We had a great dinner, she said. Ralph even helped the children with their homework, folded all the washing and put it away. I really enjoyed the evening. But what about afterwards? Asked her friends. Oh, that. Ralph was much too tired.
We asked people on the streets to give us their views on the importance of sex in marriage.
In a lifelong marriage, sex, the actual act of sex I don't think is as important as intimacy.
I think it's very important. And if you didn't have sex anymore, come on.
Everybody loves sex. It's all about the sex when it comes to, a long relationship. It's really important.
Still important.
I think you maybe don't have to have it, but it sure is fun.
Please each other, meet our needs, meet my needs. Ain't no complaint,
Sex is pretty important in a relationship. There's an intimacy between two people that no one else is sharing. It's only you and that other person.
you need to have emotional bonding as well as physical bonding between two people.
It's a sort of bond. If you're unable to satisfy your partner well enough, it starts bringing problems.
I've tried to dumb down the importance of sex in my relationship as much as I can, but it's still looming there in the background. So inevitably it's important.
Yeah, it's very important. That physical side has to be addressed.
I think it's important.
Yeah, it is, but not like it was in the very beginning.
No, it's different.
It is
changes.
very, especially once you've had the babies, it changes again.
If there is no physical side, then you are just very good friends.
To me, with my experience, I wouldn't say sex. I think it depends on the individual. I, for instance, fine, once a while, you have it, but then I prefer communication.
But I don't think it's the most important. I think, like, when you're early on in the relationship, it's kind of more lust and that kind of thing, but as you go on, it's actually companionship. And
Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's other kind of things that's actually more important,
C'est un des sources de la vie, no? Is the point of being, no? To reproduction and the pleasure.
We believe the sexual relationship is a vitally important part of a strong and healthy marriage. It affects every other part of our relationship, and every other part of our relationship affects our sex life.
Western culture undermines that idea. We're bombarded with sex everywhere, in magazines, in films, and on TV, but it's almost always separated from a long-term relationship. Most films suggest that good sex is about instant gratification. A beautiful woman and a gorgeous man get into bed together and the sex is instantaneously wonderful. But how many films have you seen about sexual passion in a marriage of 20 years or more?
The impression we're fed is that good sex can only be found in a new relationship or in an affair. While in a long-term relationship, the passion will fizzle out over time. But that's just not true.
We've been married 48 years, nearly 48 years. And it gets better. The relationship, the physical, sexual side of our marriage gets better. It's quality rather than quantity, would you say?
Yeah, I would say that sums it up.
So, that's the experience of hundreds of thousands of married couples. And, for that matter, our own experience is that sex can improve over time. Sex is designed to be in the context of a committed, long-term relationship where it can grow and deepen in pleasure and significance as our marriage matures.
Sex is a way of communicating love that goes beyond words. It's the ultimate body language. Not only does sex express the one flesh bond, but every time a couple makes love tenderly and passionately, the bond is strengthened. Sex joins us together not only physically, but also emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually.
But many couples give up when the initial infatuation dies down, or because of tiredness, or they just let complacency set in. And that's so sad. A couple who we know, who are both doctors, who run the marriage course in another part of the UK, told us one reason why sex is such a powerful bonder. They told us the pituitary gland produces 8 different hormones, and one of those hormones is oxytocin, which is produced during breastfeeding and increases the bonding between mother and baby. Oxytocin can also be released during orgasm in men and women, and so making love helps to strengthen the bond between us.
Without sex, a husband and wife can become like 2 flatmates, but we're called to be lovers. Now, in case you've been given the wrong impression, let me assure you, God loves sex. He invented it. And if you're in any doubt about that, we suggest you read a highly erotic love poem in the middle of the Bible that's called the Song of Songs. That's a celebration of the sexual relationship between a man and his new bride.
Sex isn't just the icing on the cake of a marriage. It's a vital ingredient of the cake itself.
I think sex binds us together. And actually I find in some relationships where the sexual relationship has died, bit by bit the rest of the relationship often dies. I think people often feel rejected. They feel, one woman said, he doesn't want to touch me anymore. I feel less than nothing. And so I'm a very strong believer that, although, as I say, it will vary between relationships, sex in a marriage is absolutely vital.
Do you agree with what has been said thus far as Christians, that sex is of God and is the vital part of marital relationship? I want comments, please. Affirmations, disagreements, whether you're married or not. Stella, I'm not looking at you. You're welcome. Yes, comments, yes. Yes, Mary, what do you think about what has been said so far? Apart from the scientific discoveries about oxytocin, I'm sure some of us are hearing that for the first time. Huh? Some may have heard it, some are hearing it for the first time, that when the pituitary gland secretes quite a number of hormones, and one of them is oxytocin, which bonds baby and mother. Sometimes we wonder how a baby and the mother are so bonded together through breastfeeding. And today it's encouraged that it should be done by mothers at least 6 months exclusively. But this oxytocin is also generated when two people have sex. And that also bonds them together. I mean, I never knew that science before. But I do know that sex bonds a man and his wife. It's a spiritual thing as well, as it is physical and emotional. And then the fact that God invented it. Abi? Eh? Let's agree now. And it's biblical. But the only thing is that whatever God made, he put how to use them. Whether it's mouth or whether it is sex organs, he has told us how to use them. For example, he says you cannot bless with your mouth and cause the same mouth. After all, the mouth is the mouth given to us. So everything God created, he has given it the right use physically. So that's what I want us to see. You could see the comments and everybody. Some people were shy, to affirm. But virtually everyone who commented said it's important. Somebody says, well, he doesn't think that is the most important thing is communication. But we know that communication covers every aspect of marriage. If you are not talking with your spouse, then you are not able to say how you feel, what you think, make suggestions, to one another as to how to improve your relationship. So I should go on.
Yes, sir.
We agree. Mommy say you should say something.
Praise God.
Hallelujah. At least Mary has an experience. How many years of marriage?
It's the experience.
It's more than almost 30.
Yes, so, I don't know, when we started, or when I got married, sex was an issue in the family because of the way we are brought up to fear sex.
Raise your voice a bit.
I said, when I got married, initially sex was a problem because the way we are brought up, you are not supposed to go near a man, and the way they painted sex as if it's something very difficult, something very, but with time, we got to understand each other. There was a bit change, but later in life, some other thing crop up, which I personally look at sex as if it's not the most important thing. But I now discovered that I was really hurting my husband. So we now later have to sit down and discuss this issue. Even though we are having children, with the issues we are still having our children, whenever the issue of sex comes up like that, it was a real issue. But I thank God with prayers and understanding, and then later some of these things has changed. I mean, it's not like how it used to be. Now, if I want to make him happy, or if I want, because especially now that we are doing things together, so we have to unite in that aspect. If not, we have nothing to tell other people. You know, so we are doing spiritual work together, and sex is about spiritual relationship. It has something to do with the spiritual as well. So we have to understand ourselves and then begin to do the will of God, even in the area of sex. So I think it's much better, seriously much better than how it was before. Before now, in fact, we are saying maybe one has a spiritual husband. I don't know what is spiritual husband. They were telling me, you know, maybe, because sometimes I'll go to the hospital and I explain to the doctors, I say, anything sex, I don't want it. So that is the hospital aspect of it. So I begin to search, you know, read some literatures, and they will be saying it's spiritual husband, maybe you have a spiritual husband, that is why you are not interested in sex. But my husband is not like that. It's not any time, any minute, any time he can be aroused to want to have sex. So what I want to say is that now it's better because we are getting understanding by reading the Word of God and then praying together to be able to get rid of anything that is, you know, not bonding us together in the area of sex. And I praise God that it's better now. Praise God.
Hallelujah. Thank you very much. Question, please. Yes.
Based on what she just said, I've had an interaction with a lot of married women, and sex seems to be a problem. I had a friend that her husband was having affairs outside, and initially everybody was blaming the man, but later we got to find out that she didn't like having sex, so she was always putting him off, and her husband on the other hand liked sex, so he went outside. He came back, apologized, begged, and everything. So, but I spoke to a few women, and I realized it was a common thing. For men, most of the married men like sex. The married women don't. And most of them were people that had this, when we were growing up, we were taught that sex is just for procreation, it's just to have babies. So most young ladies go into marriage with that mindset that you're not meant to enjoy this. So my question here is, how does a woman that finds herself in that kind of situation, how does she overcome it? How does she deal with it?
Roytula, can you try to handle that? Or maybe your wife should, because she's in a better position as a lady. She's the other person, you can also have this. You can see to just raise your voice so that we can hear. It's a practical discussion.
Praise the Lord. Like you mentioned, maybe I will cite my own personal experience. When I got married, I would say I got married very young. So, and nobody told me anything about sex. My mother didn't tell me anything about sex. As a young person, I had the opportunity of reading one or two books about relationship and sex, and you know, it doesn't mean much to you if somebody doesn't sit you down to tell you so much about it. So by the time I got married, I didn't even think sex was a priority. But my husband had mentioned to me that for him it was a priority from our wedding night. So I knew that from what he said it was important to me. And he made a lot of effort to school me, so to say, because he bought books. When he noticed that I wasn't really interested, he bought books. He was also very patient, trying to like teach me to enjoy it. And so gradually, initially it wasn't easy because something you've not been used to. Then the kids started coming, and the kids have a way of putting a lot of strain on the relationship. Let me give you a typical example. You just had a child, like he would go to work in the morning, I wasn't working. He comes back like 2. The whole day I have to take care of the baby, clean the house. Then before he comes back, I try to like fix lunch. Then he eats, fix dinner. In fact, before dinner is already in the mood, ready to have sex. I mean, I'm tired. Then in the night, the baby is there, you know, keeping you awake. Once in a while, you wake up to like take care of the baby. Then just when I want to sleep, he's touching me with his substance. Then I'm like, this thing is not fair. Don't you understand that I'm tired? And we kept on like that. Once in a while, when he complains, I will give him some other times. Then along the line, he now discovered, he used to say, there are times I'm in the mood. I didn't even realize that until I discovered it. He said, there are times when I thought you like it, you don't have a problem. Some other times you tell me all the stories in the book. He was the one that now picked it, that is during my ovulation. I'm always very ready. And I discovered that it was true, actually. You know, so like that. Then I think after my 3rd child, I now realized that I think the kids had grown up a little. At this point, I could afford a house help. So the stress of having to run my family was a lot less. Then I think maybe I want to say at this point I was older. I was beginning to like it. You understand? So I didn't mind it. Then I discovered at this stage, he now was losing interest. You know? So once in a while I would complain. I don't understand what is happening. Once in a while he's there like that, off and on. And at a point I was like, is it that when people grow older, sometimes he tries to explain, okay, maybe it's the nature of the job, he's also tired from work and all that. So back to your question, sometimes from the beginning, considering the kind of background most African women come from, you are not taught the real reasons why you should actually have sex. And when you are going into marriage, nobody gives you, you know, any proper lessons on why you should consider sex as a priority in your marriage. So you are entering into that marriage very ignorant. Then if you happen to marry somebody who has that appetite and is not patient with you, of course, you just continue with your way of life. And it can constitute a problem for your marriage. But I think that where the men are either patient or put their wives through, it helps them to get over the sex issue.
Okay. Any other person in the unmarried one can ask questions? Because, you know, we talk about reading books. Not very many people like reading books. And even today, the reading culture in Nigeria is disappearing. I think what is common is film. And what you see in the film doesn't portray the real thing. Like he said here, that instant gratification you see in the film, that's not what sex is all about. It's about a lifelong relationship that two people enjoy together. It's not that one that you just bump on somebody. Like one lady was saying, how do I even open my leg for somebody I've never known, I've never been with, I've never really known who he is, don't know the character, I don't know the spirit in him. I mean, it sounded reasonable, because you don't just go into that kind of thing with somebody you don't know. Like now they talk about the fact that some people, if you go and have sex, you may have it with one spirit. You think it's a human being. I don't know if you have been seeing it. Is there? That one, there was one clip I got. One boy said he sold his excellent spirit, and he saw his spirit moving away after having sex with a girl in the campus. And the girl was laughing because that the girl knew what she was doing. And anybody the girl slept with, that person lost direction. If you were very brilliant, you know, your intelligence may still be there, but you lose focus in life. You know, you become hopeless. And sometimes we say that there are some men who have actually gone into sex and they have yeye spirit. I don't know if you have seen such men. They just don't achieve anything. All they do is move around and be looking for skirts. They spend all their money on girls, you know, just to have sex. Their homes are wrecked. So I think it's important we get to see the value of what we're doing and the sharing that, you know, older the brothers and sisters are giving to us, especially the female. Because I have seen that sex education, I was sharing with my group, I said, no parent actually of our own time will sit you down and give you any kind of education with regards to the relationship between the opposite sex. No, they just assume that you will stumble into it one day. Later. The thing is later. Yes.
Just to also add to what Ryan said. What she asked, the question was how can women get such notion or idea? Well, this is what we're here. This is one of the areas you can, at least from this talk and from the film and from discussions, you understand.
Share with others.
And then, like my wife was saying, I also realized that on the line, just like she was talking about this mood thing, they all tie that together with the whole package of communication and having to understand the person. Whatever venture we are going into, we should understand that venture. As we study our work, we should also understand our marriage. I think for a long time, most people don't take time to understand marriage. And even, also inclusive. Over time, we got to understand that this is something that you want to study by your partner. A lot of times you ask some questions. Why are you not in the mood? For instance, like she said at the beginning, I was the one that was in charge.
You were aggressive.
At the point, I was even complaining. But funny enough, the table has turned. She's complaining. And sometimes she starts to give reasons why like that. And I said, don't think find far. If you ask me, I don't even know. It's not, because natural thinking is that if you're not satisfying your wife, maybe you're feeling somewhere. That's what I'm looking for. And I keep saying, okay, most times see me, I'm with you throughout. He said, but what is are you with me? Because I would be of no use. So apparently I said, okay, if I go as a problem, I still is a problem. And then I like to ask myself some critical question, why am I not interested? So I also found out that either, like she was saying, is it, I have to research, sometimes I have to go to the internet. And then what is the problem? So maybe it's the food we eat. Sometimes the kind of food we eat, it's for us to have some moods. And then also the time we don't create, like forget about this busy. Like somebody said, maybe if you want to do something in the evening, from the morning start the assignment and things like that. So maybe I found out that it's a lot of effort. If you begin to follow your passion or follow what occurs to you, there will only be friction. It's just there should be a deliberate effort to understand that since this is important, we have to invest in it, we have to do something about it. And when the people say it's important, okay, it's vital. What do we do about it? I think that is where I think the problem is. And I suggest that what we can do about it first is to lay every material we can lay hand. Actually, I started with the book, and that book I bought it, and it talks entirely about the human makeup and things like that. So I understand that I have different perceptions about these things. And that's when I'm now saying, okay, now I belong to this particular group. So and that's what, let me talk to her from this point. But I also belong to another group too. That also need to also be savaged. And then along the line, I have to now read what that really, and then in the end, I think we have to, and then look at the scripture. The scripture balances everything out completely. So when we go to God, I say God, and then prayer is also important too. I think we have to pray. Because sometimes you want to make a point, and then you cannot get you. So at that point, I'm saying something, she says something. Both of us are right, but we are wrong to each other. So at that point, and I say, Lord, I don't know what she's thinking, but this is what I'm thinking. And maybe I think I'm right, but she thinks she's wrong, right? But you that knows all of us, intervene in Jesus' name. And sometimes after that simple prayer, I find that things begin to work sometimes.
Thank you. Well, I think we all have been through school, and we know that Bobby, you want to come and say something. I'm waiting for you. Let me say, like he said, I hope that my wife will not say the one that I will feel embarrassed. But you're free to say whatever you want to say.
You can run it when no man pursues. Thank God for this. Like our sisters shared. Most times we don't get who will tell you, come and sit down, you are going for marriage. You see, but that's why you have churches organize
premarital
counseling. Many churches I know organize this, and sometimes even if they don't organize, there are some informal ones. Like sometimes the pastor's wife will call you and say, come on. Because I remember in one of the fellowships, a lady discussed and said, her pastor's wife called her and said, come on, you are going to enter into this thing. It is very hard. It is painful, and so on. The kind of counsel they gave. So you see, when you tell a young lady it is a painful thing, she enters into marriage thinking that sex is really painful, which was what I'm sure our sister experienced for years. And some people will say it's just because, what is sex? Sex is just to have children. Then some mothers will say, after all, I've given birth to all the children, what do I need sex for? You know? So these are the kind of hand-me-down information we receive, which are not the full counsel. So we go about with half counsel, and then we will get problem during the marriage. And then some other people, they don't really get this counsel. They discover the things themselves, and then it becomes like a free-for-all for anybody that actually demands for the sex from them, which shouldn't be. Now we are talking as Christians. So we need to really get to understand some of these things. You see, that's why this program is also organized, not only for those who are married, but for intending or for those who are singles, so that they get to understand some truths before entering the relationship. Because the informed messages you get will help you to make the informed choices much later in life. And then you get to also know how to keep yourself, against anybody who wants to just meet you for anything. Because sometimes even during, yes, you are into relationship with somebody. You say, after all, we will soon be married. Let's do it. There's nothing wrong. We have made a commitment to each other. I remember a friend of mine, they had printed the card, they had bought the wedding gown and so on. So the young man told her, let's have it. That his father told him that before you marry, find out whether she's, fertile. So the lady said, and you, what do you think about it? He said, nothing wrong about it, and so on. And so she told him, I'm sorry, I won't do that. And if that's what you really want, I think I can call off the wedding. In fact, the lady eventually called off the wedding. And in fact, when we were talking, I said, you really did that? She said, yes. I was so impressed, that she could take that stand. Because many people would have fallen prey, to those kind of things. Yes, it is true, the two of you have made the commitment to one another. But sometimes I tell myself, what if at the end of the day, a day before the wedding, something happens and you don't marry again? You carry pain, you carry guilt in your heart, So it's better you go. Let's look forward to it. Like we keep hearing, that with time, the thing will be reducing. So why chop everything now? Wait until that day and you can open the wrap. It's a gift, it's a package meant for you. So when you allow yourself, unwrap the package together on your wedding night. Amen. For our young people. And then, there are many reasons again, like we said, women find they are not often in the mood. Another thing I would like to add is that, they had talked about appropriate timing. If a woman is stressed from morning till night, looking after children, cleaning the house,
You
probably
remember the story that the man tried to do that.
when he
and
did
he
the
got
work,
tired. So it was now him that was tired.
when he now took up the work, he found that it wasn't easy. You know, it's not that easy. Because, so for young people to, let's see how you can help your wife do the things together. When the two of you are working together, it helps to make the work easier. And then, as you are doing the work, you are communicating, you know, you are touching each other, the signal is going, you are preparing the ground. So it's not, sex is not just...
I think I used to do that, did I? Can't remember now.
Wait, let me finish before I forget the point. The thing is, you prepare together. Sex is not just for the man.
No.
It is for the two of you. So because many times the women will have it as, like our sister once told us in one of our fellowships years back, when you finish, cover me. She wasn't in any way interested in the thing. You know, she just said, when you finish, cover me. And if you are a caring husband, you shouldn't do that. Because it should be a two-way thing. At the end of the day, you'll be able to ask her, you enjoy it? I can see you enjoyed it. And then the two of you can talk about it. It flows well. But if you just come and do it, it's like raping the woman. And that is why in some cultures, some people can prosecute you for raping your wife. So let's be very careful. Then another thing a woman has in mind is the security of the place. If there are people around, you see, a woman wants to be assured that nobody will come and knock on the door. Either a child running into the room or neighbors, and then they will soon hear the bed is squeaky. You know, that kind of thing. A woman will not be relaxed. It will make her tense. So a woman wants complete security during the conjugal relationship. And then when people know they have some issues, they should be able to seek counsel. You know, don't just continue to bear it. And then somebody is telling you his spiritual husband. Look for real people. Yes, it is true. It's often a difficult thing to know who exactly to go and meet and share this kind of thing with. But you know, God helping you, you will be able to see some people you can discuss with. You don't need people who will condemn you. You don't need people who will preach on you. And then you don't want people who will now, you know, tell you some false stories about it. We all know that sex is good. God gave it to us. And it is something we should actually desire to have. When we got married, before we got married, I liked reading books, and I always made sure I bought a lot of Christian books, even from my... That was, okay, yeah. Yes, that, in fact, I think for young people getting married, they should get that book. I don't know whether it's still in production. Every Woman. You know, it's a very nice book. But there were other books, you know, some literatures in those days, Walter Trowbridge, and so many Christian people. They wrote some things. And I used to love reading. When I was in Form 2, the pocket money I had, I made sure that I never bought things anyhow. I went straight to bookshop, Christian bookshop, and there were Christian bookshops in those days. Challenge bookshop. Just get some Christian book. I used to buy biography. I like reading. I want to get the testimony of people, you know, how they were able to go through life, you know, that kind of thing. So that was how I satisfied myself with reading books, and then medical books that had to do with your physiology is good, so that you understand yourselves too. You understand yourself, you understand your partner, and then the two of you can flow. And above all, we have the Beth-Zatha Ministry, so you can always come and make reference, send people to come, so that, you know, they can be part of this program. It's not only for married people, it's for young people, so that along the line, you don't make mistake. Even if you make mistake, you can learn and say, with all these people waiting here, I cannot make mistake. They will see me. This one will see you on the road. I say, don't I know you in the couples meeting? You know, we have become witnesses.
And a multitude of counseling.
Yes.
Very simple.
Thank you.
Let's go on. If you still have other comments and questions, you can reserve them. But let's go a little bit further.
In this session, we're going to look at how to maintain our sexual relationship over the whole course of a marriage, and also how to reignite sexual desire when it dies down or dies out. To do this, we need to be deliberate, to work at it as with any other area of our marriage.
Good sex session was great. Yeah. Really good.
I think it, we know that we're different, men and women, and I think it was really good to have that reinforced with, you know, Nikki and Scylla explaining the differences again, and so many people being there as well. So we all heard it together, and it's not kind of this big myth that we think we're different, we actually are. And it's been a chance to really understand each other a lot better, and yeah, work on things and talk about things more since then.
I think it's definitely not look at it from an individualistic point of view. Look at it as a team. It brings you closer together, understands meeting each other's needs, and the sex is just so much better. It is.
Our culture today so often gets it wrong, that if sexual desire has faded, that's it. But we strongly believe that it can be and must be reawakened. We can't just leave it to our feelings.
Most couples struggle with their sex life at one time or another for a variety of reasons. It may be that we're not feeling as physically attracted to our husband or wife as we once did.
Or it may be that we feel a failure or vulnerable or threatened in this whole area. And we may not be able to identify why we're finding sex hard or why we shy away from physical intimacy. Our sexual desires and responses are very complex.
Difficulties may be the result of our upbringing. We may have lacked physical affection as a child, or we may have received misleading messages from our parents or at school or from the church. Perhaps sex was a no-go area that was never discussed. Or we may experience difficulties if sex has been wrongly used, either by us or towards us. Past sexual relationships can cast a shadow over our marriage.
We want to pay tribute to those of you for whom sex has not been easy. Perhaps it's been painful or impossible through an accident or illness or your past, or maybe through problems in conceiving. But you've continued to grow closer despite disappointments and difficulties. And you've kept talking about it, refusing to allow it to become a no-go area. And you're committed to expressing your love for each other in other physical ways.
Our experience from talking to many couples is that the majority of difficulties are resolved through a better understanding of each other and through making some changes to our behaviour or lifestyle.
However, some couples need more help, perhaps where abuse or other issues from the past have caused a fear of physical intimacy. But these too can be resolved through talking to someone about it. And please ask your course leader if you need help, and they can refer you to a professional.
If you are struggling, seek to move forwards together. Don't regard this as your issue or my issue, but our issue. You don't need to remain stuck where you are.
I think our sex life stopped for a little while between my two children after I had my son, but that was for medical reasons, and I think it was really hard until I was diagnosed, and there was actually something you could put to it, and the reason that it wasn't just because I didn't want to have sex. There was actually a medical reason why I couldn't, and so I think that eased the pressure getting a diagnosis actually, and then perhaps again after the second child when I had postnatal depression, that made me not really interested in a relationship with Pete because I was in my own little world. So both children actually had an effect there at the time, shortly after birth, but I think it's definitely improved since then, just as well really, isn't it?
If there was a positive that came out of that experience, it was that I think we learnt or relearned how to be intimate without sex, you know, without intercourse. It was cuddling became more special, spending time with each other became more special, and intimacy was essential really during that time.
We now want to look at 6 elements, all of which are part of the dynamic process of developing our sexual relationship. We'll have a short break after points 1 and 4 to allow you to talk to each other. Before I let Scilla begin, I should tell you she's probably the most uninhibited person I've ever met. Well, that's a great advantage for talking publicly about sex. It's also somewhat dangerous, as I'm never sure what she might suddenly decide to reveal about us.
Don't worry, I shall try not to get carried away. The first element that we want to look at is about the importance of communication. Sex isn't always as straightforward as it sometimes seems in the movies.
I came across a wonderful story a couple of years ago. Sarah and Neil had been married for 8 years or so, and they had a little girl, Samantha. I think she was about 3 years old, and Samantha's bedroom was being redecorated, so for a week or so she slept in a little put-you-up bed at the bottom of her parents' bed. And she went to bed about 7 o'clock at night, and they had a pizza together and lit the candles and watched Sleepless in Seattle. And it's a romantic film, isn't it? And when he got to bed, he must have been feeling quite amorous, because they get into the bedroom and it's pitch dark. He slides in his side of the bed, and his wife slides in the other side, and he said, "Darling, come a little nearer. Don't even think about it." She said, "No." "Oh, please, darling." "No. Samantha's in the room." And they have this conversation in stage whispers. "Oh, darling, please." "No. Look," she said, "this is not Sleepless in Seattle. This is not the Empire State Building. I'm not Meg Ryan, and you are definitely not Tom Hanks. No. Please. No." And then suddenly another voice joins the conversation. "Daddy, when Mummy says no, she means no."
Dad and the mom. I came into the conversation. When Dad and Mommy says no, she means no. So like my wife said, we should always take some of these things into consideration. The first one I mentioned was that the story told by the narrator there, that the man tried to show that he can help, but in doing that also he experienced what the wife normally experiences. That's the joy of doing these things together. So you can now know why sometimes the other person says, "I'm not in the mood." So it's important. I just wanted to pause here. The pastor, and after their marriage, the first year they were not able to, the lady was not able to take him. So the lady decided to discuss with the husband, "Can we go and see a medical doctor?" The husband was reluctant. Then she went, the mother took her to one of their family doctors who examined her and found that she hadn't any blocked fallopian tubes. There were no physical or issues that had to do with the ovary or the what you call the bag where the child, the uterus and all that stuff. Examined it properly. Now the doctor said, "Okay, could you bring your husband so we can also," and that was where the issue came. She went back home and told the man, "Could we please go and see the doctor?" The man was like, "You mean you reported me to the doctor?" You know, something now began to surface. And he was so angry, he took this screwdriver and chased her around the house. So she ran to my house and told me about it. because she knew I was part of the one that counseled them and helped them. And I said, how could your husband do that? So I took her back. And I said to the man, whether you like it or not, you must see a doctor. I prevailed on him. You know, that kind of, Baba now, or somebody. So I forced him to go. And then just go give your specimen. And they discovered that his sperm was poor. He didn't have enough very viral spermatozoon, they call it for those of us, that could swim enough to, get the lady's egg fertilized. Simple thing. And he was placed on drugs. And I made sure he took it. They have 3 sons today. So we're talking about communication and not being shy about sharing your problem with your spouse. What then are you coming to the man? Okay, you didn't have a child, you're not also going to enjoy the sex itself. So it's important that we open up. Because it's don't think it happened. This is, you don't know where it will start. Then we talked about diabetes, like the lady said. Those who have sugar problems have problems with sex. They may feel attracted to a woman, but when it comes to the real thing, the man will be breathing like a castrated dog. That's why they say sugar is a problem, and that people should consume less sugar, especially men, because sugar can destroy even your drive, sexual drive. It keeps it very low. So I think it's important we understand this, because no premarital counseling, the person may not have all the time to give you all this. Then the other thing we're talking about, I think I've recommended that, but I don't have, not many people have asked about uniquely men and uniquely women. In fact, the way it's cited is uniquely male and uniquely female. We are different. Physiologically, we are different. Like all of you are saying, it's the men who are always asking for sex. They are the ones who are driven to, commit affair outside most times. If some women do it, it's because either they have some issues or spiritual problems, or they want to retaliate. Because I have the woman who said, since you are going out, I would also make you feel how hurting it is to meet other people. But generally speaking, men are aggressors by nature, the way God made us. I'm told medically, the way we are wired is that all we need is eye to see. To see a woman's breast, see a woman's pants or something is enough to trigger off anything in a man. But the man has to control it, otherwise it becomes a dog. He cannot just jump on anybody he sees. That's why we have the Spirit of God in us. That's why we are Christians. But we are not exempted from the temptation because of the way we are wired. I shared with children in JS3 some years back. They used to wait after prep to touch the breast of their classmates. And then the girls reported to me as a college counselor there, saying that these boys, they told me the boys, I invited them to my office. I relaxed them. I asked the first one, I hear that you normally try to touch the breast of your classmates. Why do you want to do that? He said, sir, can I tell you the truth? I said, yes, that's why I called you. He said, I want to tap some current. JS3. I love them because they were open. You don't get that from every child, because they will be afraid that they don't know what I will do. So it's all right. So when you touch it, you feel somehow. I say, yes, sir, yes, sir. They're 13, 14. So I knew that they have come of age. And at that point, if for any reason, so I now began to educate him on currents, different currents. We use physics. I use his language. I said some currents are such that they can electrocute. So he said, sir, you mean it? I said, yes. You see, from that we now start. I said, you see, you're 14, you're actually sexually matured, but you're not emotionally, you're not mentally, you're not economically, and all of the other maturity. You've not reached there. So even if you now touch your school girl and then the girl also, and you all get into it, we don't have a place for married children in the school. All right, so these things help you to know that all of us are human. The boys have now come of age, biologically they were matured, but every other way they were not matured to go into a relationship where to have sex. And so we need to understand this too, that when you see small children in certain habits, you don't just hush them down, educate them. Try to cool them down and let them know the outcome of some of the desires that are in them. You cannot tell them that they are committing terrible things and you shut them down. That would be negative. Yes, I don't know if you have any comments.
I wanted to add something. Concerning this medical issue and communication, even in while you are courting, while you are going together before the marriage, it's good you are able to be sincere with one another. If there are some medical issues you have, it's good to say it. And together you can pray and agree. And you pray together, God answers your prayers. And then you also go seek counsel. We read one article recently about a young man and a woman who got married, it was arranged from the churches by the pastors. It was on the first night. Oh, okay. It was even one TV program. It was on the first night that the girl discovered that the man wasn't having erection at all. If somebody who is sexually alert is married to that kind of a person, what will she do? If after 1 month, 2 months, there is no sexual relationship, if she takes that case to court, court will say, you can dissolve the marriage. Are there lawyers here who will tell us? They will tell us that, yes.
It's not been consummated.
It has not been consummated. So, and that means the man knew he had the problem and didn't tell her. Or like there was this case of
a lady to Nepal years ago.
A lady that got married, her parents knew she didn't have the vaginal opening.
It wasn't there. It was a unique.
It was a strange case, and the parents knew. They allowed her to get married. Whether they really knew, I wouldn't say now. But this woman got married to this man, and there was no hole, And the man eventually reported to the church. I can't remember the whole story now.
No, they allowed divorce.
They allowed the divorce, okay. That was in Kano for this one. So it's good for us, even while we are courting. You see, if you are aware of something, the two of you can face it together. You are prepared to know how to face the issue. It's also like one lady who, before she gave her life to the Lord, had committed several abortions and had removed her womb. And she gave her life to the Lord. And, there was this crusade. A man of God was praying. As a woman, you don't have a womb or something like, I can't remember the details.
Was it deliverance session?
Yes, it was deliverance session. So the man told, the preacher said, you don't have a womb. She said, yes. And he asked her,
does your husband know?
Did your husband know about this before you got married? She said, yes. She told the truth. And the husband was aware of the whole thing. And so he now called the two of them, prayed for them, and in God's miraculous way, God gave her a womb. She had her children.
I'm a witness.
So it's when the two of you are aware of anything, it can be solved. Then about the privacy, for those of us that have really young children, it is actually good for us to be very careful what we do in front of our children. You see, what we do in front of our children and then what they also see on television, it goes a long way in imprinting in their little minds. And before you know it, you see them doing it even openly. You know, these days you hear of stories of how young people have become initiated into all kinds of things. So let's be very careful so that we don't allow our children to see what is happening. You know, like it said, most times it's the woman who is particular about privacy. And she wants to be sure that everywhere is secure. You see, like the woman in that instance, that example we were giving, it was the woman saying, no, our child is in the room. And the man was saying, no, let's do it. Let's do it, you know. And before you knew it, the little girl opened her eyes and said, you know, smoke. And you think they are asleep. I wonder how people who all live in one room do it. It's actually a sad thing, but people need to be very careful on this. And that's why you find that a lot of such things cycle around, you know, in those kind of families.
I don't know if any of us read about the two medical doctors whose children were having sex with each other. Yes. And eventually one of them even at stage got pregnant. Wow. They hated themselves to the final because they were concerned more with their jobs and didn't actually try to supervise these children to know what they're doing. They cried their lives out. Born again, tongue talking, so it's not just about careless people. These are Christians, but they were devoted to their jobs and they didn't know that the children were already practicing this same thing. And they were growing up and they were doing it over the years until one of them, the girls, got pregnant by his own brother. Of course, in Anambra, the one that had just happened in my state, they had it at Ekulobia. This is a boy marrying the sister and said that their other brother was a pastor and said the Lord spoke and prophesied that he can marry the blood sister. And the town was turned uproar. So a lot of things are happening these days. And we just need to be, yes.
There's this issue. One lady, she was a Muslim. She got born again, you know, turned to Christianity. So there's this pastor again from Cameroon. He's a Nigerian, but he's based in Cameroon. So he came and they now met in a fellowship. This is an issue of like deception now. They met in the fellowship and this lady is I think she's from, no, she has a good educational background and she's doing very well. She was almost like a commandant with EFCC. So she has little money with her. So when the pastor saw that, you know, she has what to take care of the marriage and the rest, so he now it's a pretense. The man pretended as if he's a very holy man, that he's holy, he cannot touch a woman, that they should stay away from sin until they get married, you know. So the woman, you know, went out of her way, did everything. In fact, she was even the one that went and rented another apartment, you know, moved out of where she was, and she went to share it, Nikon, rented a place for that night. So, and the guy kept pretending, not until that very night, the first night of their wedding. Wow. She now discovered that the man cannot perform. So she called me, she said, we are her friends. So she called, she said, Mary, this is not Christianity. See how you are pretending. You know, this man deceived me. He can't do nothing. And I've wasted my money and everything. So, but they now called her and talked with her. Somehow the man now disappeared. Disappeared from the scene. So after now, she's not even married. I don't know how she's doing it. She's not married, but she's doing evangelical work up and down, and I know that as a lady, you know, it's somehow.
That becomes across.
Pretense.
Yeah, so outside, you know, because sometimes some of us fish and they say, this is a holy man. So that's so they take the whole somebody. This deeper life, you know.
It's your wife you're holding.
It's your wife you're holding. But there's some people, some of these Hollywood something, they are not even afraid. This one is not their wife, it's just friends. See young people even, so they get so close to them, I've been wondering, are they not sexually aroused the way they are doing this thing? Are they this cement or... But you know, to be frank with us, the doctors have told us that touch is very, very important. A tender touch for the ones you love helps to really show intimacy. It's not about sex this time around. Just intimacy to say, I love you, I really care for you. And that's wired in our hands as such that when you truly do the kind of touch that your spouse, you know, will want, it makes them feel loved. My wife in those days, if I stay in the parlor and I say, well done, or in the kitchen, she won't respond, she won't talk to me. And then when I get close, I say, but I was greeting you and I tried to do what they told us that I should comment. And he said, is that by shouting from that place? I said, I wasn't shouting. He said, if you want to show appreciation, come close, touch me gently. Don't push the thing over. Because some of you may say, oh yeah, I'm touching you. You know, that's like, you know, so mechanical. So I learned from there, and I'm still letting go, that, you know, tender touch is very important. Closeness. It has, they call it non-sexual touch. It's not about you want to have a sexual intercourse. Just get close, hold the person, cuddle. You remember that man that said the wife had an issue, a problem, you know, after giving birth to her. She had a postnatal depression, and that caused a lot of problem. But the husband said, I learned something positive in that experience. I learned that it is not just the intercourse alone, but cuddling is also fine. Somebody says, why can't you not just hold your wife and cuddle together and sleep together? That's all. But the man finds that very difficult. What am I cuddling you for? Just to cuddle you. And they feel your body now. But these are the things that make for intimacy. And I think it would be nice for us African people. They say it's English. But you people who are more, don't your eye, pass. What I always say is that it is good for a man to show tenderness. Like, for example, we had a situation where we were saying, if you don't have a car, you're going to enter taxi maybe with your wife and children, why don't you first of all open the door for them to get in and make sure that she's well seated and the children before you. But you know, places like Lagos, everybody's hustling. You're even thinking of how you will find seat for, forgetting that you have a wife and children. And the story was told of a man who first of all jumped into and left the children, and then a taxi that missed his way came and ran over the wife and the children, and they all died while he was seated inside comfortably. He had managed to, you know, they say Russians. No, they say not Russians. But he lost his wife. So I said, it's not just English. It is simple courtesy that a man should learn, all right, to consider your wife as the weaker sex. That's 1 Peter 3 and verse 7. So that we don't always like it. It's not about Hollywood, or is it Hollywood you would call it? Hollywood. Hollywood. You know, that you can hold your wife when you're working together. For some of us, you'll be feeling like, make it they go and they come, I'll follow you. Like your man will tell, you know, the wife. It's either you think that the wife is not good enough for you to walk side by side with her, and she feels it. Because women are people of emotions. They think a lot of things. Your actions, you know, can mean a lot of things to them. So it's important that we also know when to do this touching thing properly, and it will, you know, produce the desired results. Praise the Lord.
That you see that lady,
The
pastor that brought performance.
Okay.
to avoid such things, don't you think it would be proper or nice if, as we counsel as church or as we counsel couples, intending couples, we request for medical report.
I think some churches do. But what some churches do is pregnancy test. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to me. Because these days you don't need to be, you can have sex without getting pregnant.
Yeah.
So I don't actually ask people I counsel, just go and get me. I have heard about people who exchange urine and they even collab with nurses. For some churches, they think that they are very holy and all that. I ask you straight, looking at your face, when I don't chop the thing, that's my own style. Tell me, when I don't chop up, I don't chop up. If I never chop up, I never chop up. If I don't chop up, I say, well, the church says we should just bless you. I say, that's the way when I don't start. Maybe when I continue. May God bless you, give when I children. But if when I never chop up, then it is then you can say, I take thee to be. All right? From this day forward. But you have already taken. We cannot ask you to say that. It's like deceiving yourself, not God. Me, I don't want as a pastor to be in presence of deceivers. Then God is listening to us. He knows you have done it. You have already consummated. We call it consummation. Once you do, you have done it. And nobody is going to kill you for it. All you will know is that you miss that, what I call experience of waiting for it, because there is joy in waiting for that day. But if you have missed it, fine and good, that means that you allowed yourself, to be tempted to the point of yielding. Ask God for forgiveness and continue. But this time around, don't go outside of your wife or husband. So that's how we do. So all those things, like you mentioned, they still be key, because some people say you run tests for HIV and AIDS, you run tests for genotype, all right? Many people have done that. But I asked them, I said, do you run tests for tendency for madness? Because those ones have not discovered the scientific way of discovery. Tendency for
erection.
Even erection. There has to be some specific ones too. So this thing has to do with sincerity. But there are some basic things. I still encourage people to do tests. Because it helps you. For example, if you know your genotype with that of your wife, intellectually you will be able to find out how you can, keep with each other. Like my wife and I, before we got married, I had to ask her to give me her cycle, her periods, the time she normally has that. That helped me to know, her cycle, to be able to determine, not with precision, prayerfully, when she is ovulating, because we didn't intend to start making babies because she was in school. We had agreed that we would not start, and we would tell God about that, we would not start making babies. So that helped me. With that knowledge, I was able to know that by this time after her menses, she's likely to have her ovulation. And during that time, I should make every effort either to meet or not to meet with her. So that helped us. And so until the time we prayed, I said, God, we are now ready. She's now ready mentally, emotionally to be able to. We did that because I told her, I can't wait for you to finish school. That's the man. And I was very open. I don't want a situation where I'll have to have sex before you. I'm somebody that people are looking forward to. And I also want to keep that so I can testify that I waited. So she now agreed we will get married, or we'll have to work at it. The truth is that whatever decisions they're going to take, the two of you must talk. You must communicate very, very well on issues that you think will be a yes. So you take on them. You know that in the case of genotypes, and if you have, if you're a carrier and the other person is a carrier, it's 50-50. So you need to pray. You need to know, because what you know, you are in a better position to be able to handle than what you just stumble into. Say, I didn't know, but I knew. So you're in a better position too. Yes. More discussions, questions? we're opening us up, isn't it? Yes.
Praise God. Usually this mommy and sister it's been common. I have an experience, not personal, but I mean as a pastor in a church where I happen to work. A pastor married a lady, and they were not the guy was not able to perform his marital duties. Today they are divorced. What can one do? I'm asking the question now, what can one do, to help salvage such a situation before degenerating to divorce?
I think we say we should emphasize, teach people to be sincere. This importance of sincerity. Insincerity is damaging the church today, killing a lot of things. Then you start talking about what to do when you have not done the right basic thing. I say, let no secret go between you. Be open to one another. And it's how we also, do it that people will know. But if we ourselves as pastors are pretenders and don't tell the church that we are human and we make mistakes, and how God guides us by His Spirit and by the experience of others. So I think we should emphasize so much in our teaching, in our pastoring, that people should be sincere with one another, especially when it comes to this issue of lifelong relationship. It's not. So that's what I think. I don't know if anybody has.
So I feel that you shouldn't have pastors who are married. You can be a brother, you can be a teacher, can be anything, but you're going to pastor people who should be married. Because if you're having one or two cases like that, about pastors, you always say they're pastor, people they are already religious, they are this, they are that. Everything, whatever. So, but I feel that if you are to be a pastor, to cast people, then that's what so, if you don't pastor until you are married,
understand the both sides. I'm joking.
What about it? Yes. So what was about Reverend Fathers? I didn't want to raise that issue.
But they're not married. They are fathers.
Let Pastor Joe.
No, like just on this one. While I was laughing, there was one wedding I attended, and this Catholic priest was just preaching and talking like that. So I turned to the people beside me. I said, "Is he married?" He said, "There's a child to fear." Why would I say, please say?
For you to make that kind of comment.
I mean, but
like an abomination to the Catholic.
I felt you can't be talking when you don't have experience. You know that kind of thing. Well, that was my own, and I didn't know much about the Catholic Church. So I said that one innocently, but...
Yeah, praise the Lord.
Well, as much as I think that's okay if you are not married, but I don't think that is the problem. I think we are beginning to have foundational problem as a whole. No one is perfect, but the church of today, we've been saying it, we need to be very, very careful, because if we look at where we are coming from to where we are now, the disparity is so much. It's not easy to say the truth of what some people are passing through, but that should be the reality, and that should be the basic thing that should be done. I think I want to encourage parents, from what we have discussed and on this note, that we should help our children. They want to marry, we cannot choose, because nobody chose for us, we can't choose for them, but we should have some role or roles to play while they are marrying, because of this generation we are is a special generation, and we have special species, and we need to really, honestly, that's the truth. There are so many. The reason we are having a lot of people divorcing and divorces these days, because some marriages were not having proper foundation, not rooted, and our pastors, like he said, we have a lot of papas these days who have not really passed through papa's whatever, but they are called papas. They cannot help themselves, but they are helping others. So these are some of the problems. So that's where this kind of a meeting is very important. I keep encouraging us to encourage our people to come for this meeting. And then those of us who are coming here, we should also expand it outside there so that we can, that's the reason we are here. But for me, I think parents, from what we are learning here, we should take it very, very serious to help not only our children, but the younger ones. When you hear that somebody in your church is married, you should pick it upon yourself to counsel them spiritually, find out one or two things. By so doing, we will have reduced this menace to a very large extent.
According to medical statistics, 40% of women and over 30% of men will at some time in their life experience a sexual problem. For men, two of the most common physical problems are erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation, and both can usually be sorted out.
For women, the problem could be a loss of desire, perhaps through tiredness, or it could be physical pain during intercourse, or a failure to achieve orgasm. For women, arousal is more complex. Medical statistics show that 99% of women are physically able to achieve orgasm, and yet there are many women who don't or rarely do so. Again, there are different reasons for that, but for a woman to be understood emotionally will tend to be a crucial part of experiencing fulfillment.
For both men and women, negative emotions such as fear, guilt and anxiety are often barriers to sexual enjoyment.
It takes courage and trust to bring our fears out into the open and talk about them with each other. But that is the way to move forwards together. We want you to hear now from our feature couple, Richard and Catherine, who've been married for 24 years.
We did the marriage course about 10 years ago. We thought we had a pretty good marriage at the time, but we hoped, I think, that we'd find out ways to have a great marriage.
I think we thought that our marriage was great, but could get better. And we did know that there were certain areas, and particularly the area of sex. We didn't really have the tools, we didn't know how to move forward. Coming on the marriage course was a great opportunity to look at those areas in particular.
Oh, it's an own goal! Session 1 is the foundational part, and on that we fill in a questionnaire taking stock. That gave you the opportunity to be honest and write down one or two points that you hoped you might be able to talk about later on in the course. I thought, well, I'll try and be honest and I'll assess where I think we are, and so I put down my answers, and when I shared them with Catherine, it didn't seem to go down as well as I'd been hoping.
Yes, I felt really upset when I read what Richard had put, because it shattered my illusions of the rosy relationship that I thought we had, and particularly on the area of sex and physical intimacy. In a way, it wasn't a very good start, but we found as the course went on that we could talk about these things. There was a safe place to do it, and we learnt the tools to be able to communicate and to deal with issues in a really constructive way. For me, session 6 was like a light coming on in many ways. I remember Scylla in the talks talking about the importance of our family background and the bearing that that has on how we view sex within marriage. I grew up in a home where there wasn't a lot of touch, where if there's anything suggestive on the television, my father would get a newspaper and rustle it loudly. And maybe for the first time I understood how my family background had impacted what was going on for us.
And I was able to explain to Catherine about the importance of that physical relationship of touch for me, not just sex, but the whole idea of having a close physical relationship with each other. And I was able to tell Catherine about times when perhaps we'd been together and met people, and she would be embarrassed by the fact that we were physically, maybe holding hands or walking closely, and she'd separate herself from me, and the hurt that went with those sort of things.
And that was great for me to hear that and understand that, because I had had no idea that that was what Richard was feeling. So just understanding his expectations and where he was coming from in that direction was really helpful for me. When I was about 9, we were on holiday in France, and a man locked me in a room with the intention of assaulting me. He didn't actually manage to do it, and I managed to get free, but I was really frightened at the time. And it was never really talked about, and I'd locked it away. It was only when we started talking about these issues, when we were doing the course, that I realised that I had a fear that related back to that incident.
And I was amazed about what had happened to Catherine and the effect that it was having upon her. But it has also helped me understand how important it was for my responses to her, how important things like tenderness and gentleness were to her, and how important my role was going to be in helping sort through the issues that had been so deeply buried for so many years.
We went and got some help, we were able to talk about it, and that was the best thing that we could ever have done for our marriage.
It's made a tremendous difference to our marriage. Both of us now can communicate about what we're feeling at that physical level.
It's about both of us giving and understanding each other and understanding each other's expectations. And I think we also know it's not Hollywood, but it has a potential, if we work at it, to go on getting better and better throughout a lifetime.
For some people, a helpful catalyst for starting to talk about sex, particularly about any problems you might be facing, is to get a good book about building a good sex life. We list some on our website, and it may help to read the relevant section and then discuss it together.
Let's just thank God for today. Maybe I should use this opportunity to congratulate all our women, both married and not married. Happy Mother's Day. We cherish you, we appreciate you for the role you play in our lives and in creation. Actually, nobody can doubt that. Without the woman, the world wouldn't be complete. I just want you to appreciate that. I do know that I have a mother, I have a wife, I have daughters. And I want to appreciate you the way God made you people. For some of us, well, the week has been the Women's Day, isn't it? And tomorrow in my church is Monday, Sunday, Mother's Day, and most other churches. But generally speaking, let's just thank God for the women. You know, our mothers, our wives, our sisters, that God gave to us to make the world a better place to live. And I think we should also pray against abuse of them. All right? There's so much of abuse of women. Rapes, you know, so many other things that are done there. Domestic violence, a lot of things that happen on them. Yet, we desire them. Yet, we desire them. Yet, without them, our children wouldn't even be what they are today, especially at the formative years. You know, we know. So let's appreciate them as we thank God on their behalf today. Then, concerning what we have learned, so let's ask God for further teaching, His grace. Without the grace of God, all these things we are saying will just be fruitless. It is by the grace of God that we know that sex is of God only for married people, two people who have come together to make a vow to take care of each other for life. It's a gift God has given them as part of their life. And so we pray that if there are fears, if there are impediments, creating male and female, so that as we go into it, the correct approach and the correct practice. Issues in this area, that God will help them to communicate more effectively with one another and with trusted persons, so that any cog in the wheel of their also be removed. Let's pray for the marriage that God intervene in